Welcome to Responsible Chicken Breeding. My name's Karen, and I'm here with Jim Atkins. And we are here going live to talk chickens. Jim, it's been a while. Did you miss me?
Oh, did I ever miss you? It's only been 2 weeks. I mean, come on now.
Seems like a
But
long time.
you know what? It was that last show with Brant Bullock. I thought it was great. What are we? Are we episode 6? Right? Is this
Yeah.
6?
Yeah.
It's 6. And when I think about since we've started this, it's been kind of a lot of things going on, but we've had some great shows, and it's been a great variety pack, and having Jeff Maddox on, and a couple of times with Matt Hemmer, and it's going really well. It's going really well. And speaking of small talk, I didn't ask you this, Karen, but there was a couple of reasons why we had to miss last week. And one of those was precious Leslie Turner, Karen's mother, passed away. And you know what? Your mom she really believed in what we were doing. She was an awesome, awesome lady. And I actually would love the idea of just dedicating this show to Leslie Turner. And I'll change the subject because Karen might get a little teary-eyed. But your mom was awesome. And a little bit other small talk while we're thinking of it. We're talking Buckeyes today. That's the breed of the week. And I'm in Ohio. Yes, I live in West Virginia, but I'm in Ohio for a couple of days. And so I think we picked Buckeyes before I knew I was going to be here. Is that right?
Shh, don't
I
tell.
can't remember.
Yeah.
And so it's Ohio. We were driving up here, up a little bit north of Columbus, and I've been to chicken shows all over this state. And also, we're going to talk about judging. You have a ton of questions about judging, because you're not like a chicken show expert, and nor are you a judge. And so I've had some great time judging in the Buckeye state. So anyways, what else were we going to? Oh, Africa.
Africa.
Yeah, that was kind of a big deal. That's another reason that we had to cancel last week's show, because I was in Africa and couldn't find a good Wi-Fi signal. And so, but I'll tell you what, at some point we'll tell you what we're doing with sustainable, responsible chicken breeding in African countries. And so man, I've got just all kinds of small talk. We probably should get going here a little bit.
Let's do that. All right. Hold on, everybody.
All right. All right. So, hey, we are talking Buckeye chickens. Now, I must say, living in West Virginia, being a mountaineer, I don't know about them Buckeyes, but and I know our Michigan Wolverine fans are not real crazy about Buckeyes. And actually, Karen, I was born in Wisconsin, so I'm really kind of a Badger. But we're going to talk Buckeye chickens today. And Karen, do we want to mention, I guess we'll save that for a little bit later, a little bit of the influence of the Livestock Conservancy, and one of my mentor friends, Don Schreider, who was very instrumental. The Buckeyes were, back in the day, there wasn't very many of them, and thanks to some devoted people, the bird has become popular again, and it is definitely on the radar screen. And so so let me tell you a little bit about the Buckeye. Can we jump in, Karen? You all right with that?
Nope. Go for it.
Oh,
I'm going to stay here with you and keep you company.
Oh, thank you. So let me explain something to all of you listeners and you watchers and you participants. You've heard me say since we've started that every chicken was created with a very specific purpose and a very specific region. So I want to talk purpose for a minute, because I basically have said, since we started the show, I said that every chicken, like we did the Delaware, and every chicken has a more primary purpose, but there's, so with the Delaware, it was first a meat bird and second an egg layer. Same with the New Hampshire. First it was a meat bird, second it was an egg layer. And the Cornish, strictly a meat bird before it was ever, and it didn't really lay many very eggs. But the Buckeye fits in another category that we call, it's equally a dual purpose breed, or I may refer to it, as others refer to it, as a homesteading chicken, a homesteading breed. And what I mean by that is you will not find Buckeye breeders, and actually never in its history was it used on a commercial level where people were breeding hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them to get them into the marketplace. It is a great homesteading chicken. And so a little bit of history of the Buckeye is it does, it is a true dual purpose breed, a good general farm fowl, and has a deep red color to the plumage. They have yellow legs and yellow skin, and thanks to the pea-comb, and we'll look at a picture, a little bit of a pea-comb, that, there it is. Wow, ask and you shall receive. There it is. That's the pea-comb. And the pea-comb, just so you remember, is a great comb for cold weather. Very, very, so it makes it a cold weather hardy bird, and the Buckeyes can adapt to, a variety of living conditions, and they do best, and I'll explain to you more why this is necessary. They do best under free range conditions, or conditions where they have room to really move around. Oh, that's good. Very creative. Yeah, you don't want your Buckeyes, and this is good. Karen was bored. She went looking for some good stuff to really make a point here. You did good. So, because they have a very, very active nature, and they don't do well in small confinement areas, and so let me tell you one of the coolest thing about the Buckeyes. Buckeyes are the only chicken in the standard of perfection that was developed by a woman, Miss Nettie Metcalf of Warren, Ohio. Now I'm a little bit north of Columbus. If you go up to Cleveland, Ohio, which is in the northeast corner of Ohio, and a little bit east, you'll run into a place called Warren, Ohio. That's where Nettie lived. And she, the Buckeyes, what she really wanted, she wanted a chicken that would do well in cold weather. Now, by the way, Cleveland is up by one of the Great Lakes. It's cold up there. Very, very cold. And she wanted an active chicken. She wanted a chicken that would work for her. She wanted a chicken that would not need to be pampered in the winter. And so she went to work, and I'm looking at remembering some of the history. She started breeding a buff Cochin male and barred Plymouth Rock females. There's some pictures there, and this produced this, what she considered it was a large and lazy fowl, and she didn't want no lazy fowl. And so the next year she put some black-breasted red game, I think a male specifically, and crossed the male over the half Cochin Pullets. She's working her little creativity, and she's like, lazy chickens, let's put some game chicken into this Buckeye. So the cross produced, a bunch of offspring, and then eventually she started developing the Buckeye. And it's interesting to note that her creation, I had a thought there, I lost it. Anyways, coming full circle, in 1896, around that time, she learned that her idea of red fowls was not new, and that was there was the popular Eastern breed that had been developed called the Rhode Island Red. And so after her corresponding with several Rhode Island Red breeders, she decided to call, in the beginning, this is so funny. In the beginning, she called her bird the pea-combed Rhode Island Red. And then she traded with breeders, and rather than helping to promote her new breed, she found that calling them, the pea-combed Rhode Island Reds was in fact, kind of limiting for its popularity. So in 1902, she exhibited a pair of these Buckeyes in Cleveland, Ohio, and within a few years, the pea-combed Rhode Island Reds, they began to disappear. And the Buckeyes shouldn't be confused with the Rhode Island Reds, even though they share some of this same history. Because Buckeyes, they're very unique. Their body shape is very unique. It's slanted, it's short, but it's got a broad back. They have very meaty thighs. People talk about the dark meat on their thighs with powerful wings and a powerful breast. And they, in a lot of ways, they're very close to the Cornish as they were bred. And they're, Karen put together here, you can see that. Look at the stance of the bird and look at the Cornish. And you can see there's some resemblance there. So in color, the Buckeye is also unique because the color of the Buckeye is darker than that of the original Rhode Island Red. Later on, the Rhode Island Red was bred for a shade of color even darker than the Buckeye. But the Buckeye also has a slate color bar in the underfluff, in the undercolor of its back. And Rhode Island Red feathers should be, pretty much red all the way to the skin. Both breeds share the trait of tight feathering. And so, the Buckeye it's a unique bird to the American class. I think the history is just awesome. To think that a woman created the Buckeye chicken is cool. I mean, as I travel across the United States, and this is a little side note, but when I'm traveling across the United States and I'm teaching about chickens, anytime I run into somebody in a seminar who's a woman and she was born in Ohio, I say, you should breed Buckeyes. You should pick up where Nettie Metcalf left off and breed the Buckeye. So, but let me share a couple other things, as far as the Buckeye. They definitely have a personality all of their own. Karen and I were talking backstage, and she was like, "I like lazy chickens, and Buckeyes are not lazy," and they're not. I mean, Buckeyes, they'll rototill a garden for you. Now you can't turn them loose in some of these big old commercial cornfields, and they can't till that well, but they're great foragers. Very, very good at foraging. They're very active, and they're noted for being just vigilant and in the pursuit of mice, and some breeders comparing them to cats in regard to this ability, like going after mice. And they tend to have and I've noticed this is actually this is a Buckeye that I raised a number. No. This was from another breeder. This bird down in Salisbury, North Carolina. And you can even look at him. He's looking at me like, "What are you doing, taking my picture?" And I remember this particular male. They can actually be a little bit aggressive at times, and they have very little fear of humans, and maybe even possibly too friendly. But some males can show, as I said, a little bit of an aggression, and they also they seem to lack the tendency to feather pick. And the males are they're very active and full range of sounds, when it comes to typical to many other breeds of chickens, especially, when a hawk's flying over. This is a whole group. I remember this group of these young males here. We were selecting the breeders one day, and these were several of these males. This was their last picture, but we picked some great birds out of this breeding flock down in Salisbury, North Carolina. And so a couple other little details. They're not an extremely heavy bird, not super light. Cocks are 9 pounds. The hens are about 6.5 pounds. The cockerel's 8, pullet's 5.5. I think I mentioned it. The skin color's yellow. They do lay brown eggs. They do have a peak comb, and we always talk about, when's the best time to process these males, and they're in the common time frame of about 16 to 18 weeks. And but again, I'll remind you, Nettie wanted a good general farm bird. This would be good. Those of you listeners or those who are participating in the show, this is a great bird for those of you who are homesteaders. And in the midst of the last 12, 15 months with COVID, and people are like, oh, we want to start our own homesteading flock and we want to be sustainable. I'll tell you what, a Buckeye is a great selection. It's a great selection, even if it's not one of Karen's favorites. So they remember, because they have game in them, they can be a little bit aggressive, and the mommies can be very, very broody. You want a broody chicken. You want a bird where you don't have to have electricity, or you don't want to use a man-made incubator. Buckeyes like sitting on their eggs. By the way, Karen, my flock of Australorps right now, they are broody machines. I'm opening up the nesting boxes. I know we're talking about my silly Australorps at the moment, but I open up the nesting boxes and I got 6 girls in there. I'm like, you girls need to get back to laying eggs. But anyways, that was just a side note. Made me think of Buckeyes being broody. And so just a couple of common faults if you're going to breed these Buckeyes. Remember, we want to speak and encourage you to be a responsible chicken breeder. And so a couple of things that I would just encourage you to be careful of. You can see, actually, these are 2 real good pictures of the breast, the fronts on these Buckeyes. But sometimes you'll get some flat breasts on the males. You want to watch that. You want it to have, now they do stand up like a game bird a little bit, or like a Cornish, but you do want it to have some breast on it. And sometimes you'll get a little twist in the pea comb, and you want that pea comb to be as straight as possible. Every now and then you get some enamel white that creeps into the earlobes, and you don't want that. You want to keep an eye on tail angle, and tail angle, there you go. The male is 40 degrees. The female is 30 degrees. So you kind of want to pay attention to that. Sometimes in the breeding, you might run into some crow heads. This is the silhouette of the Buckeyes, and you want to pay attention to some of that color variation. Body first, type first, breed characteristics. And then when you get to color, you want to pay attention to the color, but you never put color over type. But you will notice that when Buckeyes get a little bit older, they will have more black that will show up on the surface of the overall body of the bird. So, one memory when we first started working with Buckeyes, Karen, in the Sustainable Poultry Network, we got some Buckeyes from Don Schreider. Of course, I almost worship Don. Not really, but to me, Don is, and I know I always say things about Don Schreider, but I remember he gave me a few Buckeyes from his place, and one of them was blind. If I remember right, I think she was blind in both eyes, and she was like a 5-year-old bird. And Dawn's like, this Buckeye is spectacular, and she's a laying machine. As soon as she starts laying, Jim, get every egg out of her that you can. And so, anyways,
I think when you first told that story, she was 8, so I think she might have been a little older than 5. But yeah,
that's
feel
been
like
a
she
few
was.
years ago, but
Yeah.
she was old. She was very, very old. And but anyways, help me out. What else do you think our listeners, as far as Buckeyes, thoughts, questions? What do you
And you
think?
sort of alluded to this earlier. So do you see them in shows now? I haven't been to very many poultry shows, but I feel like the ones I have been, there's a decent chunk of Buckeyes there.
Yeah, and Buckeyes, they'll win. You'll see them win champion American class, and in different pockets of the country, you will find very, very good Buckeyes. Obviously, at poultry shows in this state, in Ohio, there's good ones, very good ones. You'll see them up in Wisconsin. You'll see them in Minnesota. In a lot of the shows in Iowa, maybe kind of upper Midwest is where they're at. But you'll find them, you'll find them out northeast too, and where I live in the South, not as many, but there's a few shows in North Carolina. You'll see some Buckeyes showing up, and they compete for the top awards. So that's awesome.
So if some homesteaders want to get some Buckeyes to get started, or for show purposes, I mean, are they available? Is it hard to find? I mean, it's always hard to find. There's never a breed that it's super easy to find quality stock, but compared to other breeds, can you find them?
Yeah,
Since the
you can find them. You can find them. The challenge is getting people to share them with you. And there's and we won't go down this rabbit trail very far, but I'll make mention of it. There's at least 2 different Buckeye clubs. Buckeye people can be a little feisty, so they don't always get along. But that's just typical in anything. It's just dealing with people. But there's some great breeders, and so I haven't reached out in the last 3 or 4 years. But like where I'm at right now, and just north of Columbus, I know a breeder up here, and so people could reach out to me even, and I could point them to a couple of very, very good Buckeye breeders. So, anyways,
I think I feel like that livestock conservancy effort really put the Buckeyes back on the map. In terms of
it was. You don't remember the year they did that?
I don't.
You're supposed to know that.
I know.
Anyways, I know it's been, SPN we're 11 years old. It was probably, I would say it was between 15 and 20 years ago that Don Schreider and Jeanette Behringer, they really took they called it a recovery project. And there were only, if I remember right, there were maybe 70 Buckeyes left across the U.S. And just in SPN USA alone, in 10 years, we hatched, thanks to Don and just the great genetics we hatched thousands and thousands and thousands of them. And so, yes, the Livestock Conservancy played a huge role in restoring the Buckeyes across the United States. So, hey, if you're...
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, and it forced them to write those breeding manual booklets that anybody can still read and work for. Just so good to help select and to help pick meat and egg layers. And so,
yeah,
excellent,
those are great
excellent
tools.
documentation. I love documentation. So,
yeah, they've done a great job. We're indebted to them. We point people to those resources you're talking about. They're very, very good. So, anyways, again, I'm in the Buckeye State. I'm in Ohio, and it's kind of cold and rainy, but all the fields are getting plowed and crops are getting ready to be put in the ground, and so this is kind of fun. So What else comes to your mind, Karen?
Nothing. I'm going to play the little video and then we're going to move on. Yeah.
Woohoo! All right. Hey, enjoy. Thanks for letting us talk.
And embarrassingly, if anybody has a good picture of a female Buckeye, feel free to send it to us and I'll replace that empty spot on that video with it.
Hey, I tried. I was looking and looking to try and find some good pictures, but anyways, where are we going now? What's next?
Well, we're gonna do our first Judging with Jim segment, but I want to tell a little bit about. I thought when I went into this, what I proposed to Jim was, I'm gonna ask you about how do you narrow down when you're looking at a large row of all the same bird, and in trying to put that together, I realized that I knew so little about poultry shows, having just attended them, but I never really even I just talked to the people. I never really even paid attention to the process or the winners or, any of that stuff. So I realized I actually needed to step back and actually find out how poultry show competition even works before I can get into this. So we don't really need a judge to explain this part to us, but since we've got one, we might as well use them. But you want to tell us a little bit about how you became a judge? Because that seems overwhelming to me.
Well, if you love chickens and, it can easily happen. I could envision you being a judge, Karen. I really could. You can put on your judging coat and pull a bird out. But anyways, it was, I think it was 1981 when I showed my first chickens and I won. They were a Cochin Bantam. And I won grand champion of the show, which is some of what we're going to explain here. And, and I not only did I fall in love with chickens, and then I fell in love with exhibiting poultry and competing. And then I saw these judges, and they would fly from all over the United States. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest in Washington State, and judges would fly in from Ohio. We'd have judges from Ohio. Some of my favorites, like Wilbur Stauffer, he's gone now, and Lewis Cunningham, and there's a number of other Ohio judges, and they would fly out. I'm like, man, this is cool. You're a chicken judge. You can fly all over the country, So it was one of my childhood aspirations to be a chicken judge. And of course, I was in 4-H, and we did judging contests, and I had a 4-H leader who really fostered and encouraged me to keep pursuing that. And so eventually, and then as a teenager, I would get these opportunities to judge. I wasn't licensed or anything, and I would just have these opportunities. So I grabbed on to every small little county fair judging opportunity that I could get, and it just grew on me and grew on me. And then eventually I'm like, I'm going to get into, I was a member of the American Poultry Association from the very beginning. So I entered into this apprenticeship program, and trying to remember, I think it was in 1994. I finally was licensed.
You said from the beginning, and I'm like, you were not a member in the 1800s, Jim. From the beginning of your life, maybe, but not.
No, it's true. Thank you for your clarification. From the beginning of my chicken love, I became a member from the very beginning. So appreciate you clarifying. And so anyways, in 94, I think it was 1994, I'd been judging a lot, but then I had the privilege of becoming a licensed judge. And so since then, I've judged a lot of chickens. I'll tell you, you may ask, how many chickens can you judge in one day? Well, typically when a judge gets hired, he or she should be able to do about 400 birds a day. But I'll tell you, I was judging with another very, very good judge. His name's Terry Britt. He and I were judging I was in Pennsylvania, Uniontown, Pennsylvania. And I'll never forget, Terry and I show up to judge, and it was supposed to be a 1-day judging assignment. And we show up, and they're like, we have 1,800 entries, and we couldn't find a third or fourth judge to help you guys. So fortunately, Terry Britt is a very fast judge, and I can be very fast judging when I need to. And we started, I think it was probably 8 that morning, and we finished. We judged all 1,800 of those birds. It was a little bit after dark, maybe into the 9-10 o'clock, but we did it. And so that's one of my favorite little judging memories. But we did get to the champion, which is what you want us to talk about. How do we get to that whole process? So let's launch into that.
Let's get started, and then I'll ask you all my questions. All right. So this is all I know about. This is all I know about.
That was a judging picture of me in Georgia.
Oh. Okay. I sneak these things in on him. He doesn't know what's coming. This is what I know about chicken shows, is that usually there's a winner. But now, even today, like you said, the Grand Master Show, I don't even know what all those words mean. Is that a real thing, or is that something you say when you're a teenager and you
I said Grand Champion of the Show, which is the same as a show champion. Exact same thing. Yeah.
So there is one winner of everybody who, if you had 1,800 birds there that day, there's technically a winner of all of it, right?
That is correct. Now, some of them might tweak a little bit, but generally speaking, there's always a show champion. That is correct.
Okay. And then let's see. We're going to go backwards because going forward was mind-boggling for me. So we're going to go backwards. All right. So is there a second place for the day?
There is. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Typically, we'll pick, and that means your second fiddle, right? So you've got champion.
If you have 1,800 birds there, the second best bird is pretty darn good. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. But yeah, you'll have a reserve show champion. That is correct.
Okay. And then, if I understand correctly, those 2 birds come from the different species. Species isn't a word.
Yeah. It's just the these are the birds that make up poultry, in our standard of perfection. You've got bantam chickens, you've got large fowl, you've got waterfowl, you've got turkeys, and then 25, 30 years ago, we added the guineas into the standard of perfection. So each one of these will have a champion in their division. Champion bantam, champion large fowl, waterfowl, turkey, guinea, and then a reserve, just like you're exhibiting there. And it's out of those champions, we pick, of the champion bantam, we pick the grand champion or the show champion out of those 5 birds. And so now the other thing that I would clarify is, let's just say, since we're talking Buckeyes, that the Buckeye is champion large fowl.
Okay.
And so if it goes on to be show champion, I want to make sure you get this, Karen, then the reserve American, or excuse me, the reserve large fowl can then be reserve of the show. So those reserve champions down below there end up being reserve of the show if the one that beat them becomes the show champion. Does that make sense?
That does. I have a question about waterfowl. So ducks and geese combine at that point to make waterfowl?
Yep, that's a great.
Do they have one extra hurdle?
Well, I don't really look at it as a hurdle, but yeah, you will, when you pick champion waterfowl, it's the best goose and the best duck competing against each other. And it can be 2 ducks win champion waterfowl and reserve waterfowl. It could be 2 geese. It could be a duck and a goose. It could be the goose and then the duck. But yeah, if they have webbed feet, they compete for waterfowl.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but that's like I said, just one more level that if you get champion, is there a champion duck? Is that how it, or drake? Or, I mean, it's a
There is
champion duck. Okay. All right.
just
So,
champion duck. Yeah.
all right. So let's
You-
keep
You're
going
doing good.
down.
You're learning this.
That's it. We're
Yeah,
going to keep
go
going down here. So, all right. So we're going to focus on the large fowl because that's where my heart lies at this point. You never know. So that large fowl came from the classes, right? So
That's correct.
each,
Yeah.
so
A little
there's
smaller
champion.
print.
So
Put my glasses on.
yeah, there's too many. So
Cha-
so you got American,
Champion and
Asian. Go
uh-huh.
ahead.
Asiatic, English, champion Mediterranean, champion continental, and champion AOSB, which is all other standard breeds. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 large fowl classes. And each of those large fowl classes will have a champion. So champion American, reserve champion American, champion Asiatic, reserve champion Asiatic. So I don't need to go through each one, but is that helpful, Karen? When you think of being the, hey, I want to be as elementary as we can, because people need to get this, and a lot of people don't understand it. So how are we doing?
I have a question about the any others, all other. I think it's all other standard breeds. But that doesn't mean like all chickens, right? Like that means they have to be part of the APA to win that class. I mean, it has to be something in the book.
Well, sometimes we joke about it and say, when we can't find a class to put it in, just throw it in the all other standard breed. But that's really not true. All that means is it's a significant breed, and it doesn't fit in one of those other classes. And so, and even in no, that's in continental, but give me a breed. My mind's blank. I'm drawing a blank. I don't know if you can, Karen, but AOSB, like we would put the large fowl frizzles in there.
Okay. Yeah. So here's the list from the APA website. I'll just say, so the modern games, old English games, Sumatras, Malays. Now I'm getting to the ones I can't pronounce. Cubalayas, Phoenix, Yokohamas.
Yeah, you said it right.
Astiles,
yep.
Shamus.
Yep.
Shamus.
So all, yeah. So those are all they're awesome breeds, but they don't necessarily fit. All of them have a unique way of fitting, like all the Asiatic breeds have some heritage, they have some lineage similarities, and so all other standard breeds are, like I said, it's hey, it may be like the Shamu, that's only been in the standard for not very long, and I'm still learning how to judge those, and so it that just happens to be where it landed, so that makes sense.
Yeah. So yes, I think I can let that go. I might ask more later. So
okay.
All right. So we're gonna just pick the champion Asiatic so that the type can be bigger for everybody. So I want to know where this bird came from. So it comes from the 3 breeds in that class, right?
That's correct. And the Asiatic class, as far as large fowl, it's the smallest one. It just has these 3 breeds. And all 3 of these breeds, large fowl breeds, have feathered shanks. And so, and when I'm judging, I'll come to the Asiatic class and the cages are lined up, and you'll have the Cochins and then the Langshan's and then the Brahmas, or it might be the Brahmas, and but the 3 breeds are always together, and I judge one breed at a time, and in this particular Asiatic class, there's these 3 breeds, and so whatever is the best of these 3 breeds is what will then launch itself to be the champion Asiatic and reserve champion Asiatic. So are you getting me?
Yes. So you're really only looking at 3 birds when you're picking the champion. Like when somebody has best coaching already, they've got a 1 in 3 shot of winning champion Asiatic. Does that
That is correct.
Does the reserve work? Does the reserve work the same here? So the reserve coaching could be the reserve champion Asiatic.
That's exactly right. That's the way it works all the way through.
All the way down.
If the, so if it's best Langshan, if the Langshan goes on to win champion Asiatic, then the reserve Langshan then can compete to be reserve champion Asiatic. Okay. Very good.
All right. Well,
you've laid this out.
Keep going. We'll keep going. All right. So we're going down to the Brahmas here. So in order to become the best Brahma, you need to win the variety, right? Does that go?
That's correct. So anytime if you follow me at a chicken show, I'll be placing birds 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we'll come back to that. But then out of that variety, so if I'm doing light Brahmas, I will, out of the cock, hen, cockerel, pullet, I'll put a BV on the card. Be fun. I should have thought about this. I could give you a little snapshot of it. But BV stands for best of variety. And then, so I do the light Brahmas or Brahmas, depends on where you live. Light Brahmas, dark Brahmas, buff Brahmas. Best of variety, reserve of variety. Best of variety, reserve of variety. Best of variety, reserve of variety. And all three of the colors. Out of those three colors, then I will actually, I never thought of this, but even a better, more true statement, Karen, for best Brahma would be best of breed. And but we put BB. What I'll be putting as a judge is I'll put BB. And I'll often circle it. And then when you're coming through and you're like, hey, I got a BB, and we used to celebrate that. We're like, wow, I got best of breed in the Brahmas. And
that seems huge. That's the best of your, you're not really, okay, I'm from the dog show world, right? So you're not really, your pug is not really competing against the beagle, right? It's really just, well, go ahead.
Is a pug really a dog?
Yes, the pug is really a dog. But your pug is competing against the pug is competing against its own standard. It's how well does that pug up against the standard for a pug. It's not really that the pug is better than the beagle. It's that the pug matches the pug standard better than the beagle matches the beagle standard. Do you know what I mean? Like
that is exactly. I told you could be a judge. You're saying it you're saying it exactly right. Brahma or Brahma, I call them Brahmas. They're judging against the Brahmas up to this level.
Okay.
Before they go on to the next level of competition, they're best of breed.
But yes, best of breed was what I should have typed there. So just everybody scratch it out in your head and write best of breed. I think I fix it later. All right. So you had to be the best variety first. So you talked about that. This bird has a BV written on their card, probably in red pen, if I know Jim. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So in order to become best of variety, you need, that's where the sexes come in, right? The ages and the sex. Okay.
That's right. Cock, hen, cockerel, and pullet. And so when I first come down a aisle judging chickens, when I come to the light Brahmas, I'm going to judge all the cocks first, whether there's 5 or 50. Judge all the cockbirds, or maybe there's 12, but you judge all the cockbirds first. And by the way, make note of this, Miss Karen, and all you lovely chicken people.
I'm ready.
We only place up to 5. So if there's 12 light Brahma cockbirds, we only place 5. So if there's 50 of them, you only place 5. I'll tell you something. I remember I was judging in Anderson, South Carolina. This is a number of years ago. And they put me on the Black Old English. Well, I might have just done the Black Old English, and there were hundreds of Black Old English. But I remember there were 72 cockerels. 72 of them. And all I'm picking is the top 5. Now, every now and then there might be awards to say, hey, we're giving cash awards for the top 10 black Old English. But generally, I only pick the top 5. So you can imagine if there are 72 black Old English cockerels and you place the top 5, that's a good chicken. A very good chicken, unless I really screwed it up. But there can be, when there's that many birds, I mean, there are so many good ones. And literally, it's almost like, I know you're going to go, oh, I'm making a note. How did you go about picking those, going through those 72? We'll save that for another show, right?
That's right. That's what I thought we were going to talk about today, but I realized I wasn't ready for it. I needed to understand the process, the framework before I could do more. So I hope everybody else is patient with me. Yeah.
Oh, they'll be fine. They'll be fine. So best cock, best hen, best cockerel, best pullet, those 4. Out of those 4, I'll pick my best of variety, and same exact principle on the reserve best variety of light Brahmas. Make sense?
Yep. All right. I so much think I got this that I now want to run through it the other way. Okay. So I'm sitting there at home. I've picked out my favorite. We're going to pretend I have white laced red Cornish, because who doesn't want to say many words all at once like that? So I've got this cockerel. Okay. We're taking him to the show. I think he looks a lot like the standard. Maybe it's just me, but, all right. So we've got a cockerel. So he's going to compete. I got this right. Right. He's going to first compete against all the other cockerels of the same variety. Right.
That's right. And how many you got there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Well, 7.
So 5 of those are going to, 7 with yours. So only 5 of those 7 are going to place 1 through 5.
All right. And this may surprise you, but in my imaginary example, my bird won. Yeah. So he
is number 1. You know why?
That's right.
You know why he's number 1? He's closest to the standard. You must be a very responsible chicken breeder.
That's right. And it's imaginary. So, okay. So now I've won. I'm the number 1 cockerel. So I'm excited about that. That's the first thing to celebrate. All right. But so now I'm competing against the number 1 cock, hen, and pullet of the same variety, right? You are
on a roll.
Okay.
These are the top. And your bird happens to be one of the top 4 in the class.
That's right.
Or in the variety. Excuse me, the variety. Yeah.
All right. So let's see what happens. Oh, look at that. He won. So now I'm in the best of variety, right? And how do you, I'm just going to ask, since I had the nomenclature wrong earlier. So how would you say that? Which words would go first? Best of variety?
Well, when best of variety. Best of variety in the, I won best of variety in white laced red Cornish.
Okay. So the breed is at the end. Okay. All right. Fix that in your minds, everybody. All right. So now my white laced red is going to go up against the best of variety in all other varieties, right? So
that is correct.
Cornish comes in white lace red, dark whites, and buffs. So there's 4 of them looking to become the best of breed, right?
That is correct.
And they can be of any gender. They can be of any gender and any age at this point, right? They're all.
That's correct.
Because
cock, hen, cockerel, pullet, and and with those 4 different colors. That is correct.
All right.
Wow, I didn't realize you were a Cornish lover.
So since one of those birds is a little wonky and one of them has 2 heads, I also won best of breed. See?
Best of breed.
That's right. And so it would be BB Cornish, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay.
I would probably pull out a different color pen and write BB and circle it. Okay. And if it's really nice, it's like that bird is to the standard, I might write on there nice with an exclamation point.
You carry around multiple colored pens like a teenage girl. That's good.
I do. Okay. There's probably 4 or 5 different colors in my judging coat pocket.
It can be more manly if they're Sharpies. Are they Sharpies or are they just pens?
I love Sharpies. I
Okay,
use
see.
Sharpie, but I like the tip to stay fine. I don't want them getting worn out, so
Oh,
they typically won't last beyond
all
one
right.
chicken show. Yeah.
All
I
right.
thought you'd want
So
to know about the pins. Oh,
I
that's
do.
right. Here we go. We got to do. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, and I skipped one because I want to talk like the Buckeyes, right? The Buckeyes don't have another variety, right? So they're best
They
of
don't.
variety and best of breed, or do they not get
That is
assigned the
correct.
BV title? No, they get both.
No, I mean, because we judges are in such a habit, we'll probably put, because it really is, even if it has one variety, it's still a best in the variety. So I'll put BB and BB on a Buckeye card.
But if you're a Buckeye breeder, you probably shouldn't take, you don't need to take 2 drinks if you celebrate every win with a little beer. You don't need to have 2 for variety and breed.
Yeah.
So, all right. So now we're moving on to what class, right? So we're in the English class. So
that is correct.
So you've
So
got
now
one Dorking.
English class. Yep. Let me jump in here because
Tell me, yeah.
so you've got Karen's been working her way all the way to the top. She's got best of breed in the Cornish, and now she's got to compete for champion English and reserve champion English. And so she's got her Cornish is going up against the Dorking, up against the Orpington, up against the Australorp, and the Sussex. And so now, if I'm a judge,
red cap there?
There might be. They're hard to find these days, but whatever is in the English class, I'll tell you this. When I go through all these breeds, you'll dig this, Karen. I have in my head, even if I judge the Cornish first, I have in my head that top Cornish was awesome. Then I might get to the Dorkings and go, you know what? There was not a Dorking in that class that really jumped out. They were just kind of a bunch of average chickens. And then I did the Orpington, and I'm like, wow, there was a black Orpington cockbird. He was outstanding. He was awesome. So it leaves this impression in my head as I work my way through the class. And then I come to the Sussex, and I'm like, just an average Sussex. And my whole point is this. When we're judging the each breed, the bird that was the top in that breed, it will stay in our head. So it can be hours later that I may go back and look at your Cornish, but it sticks in my head, and I can go for hours and hours and go to my clerk. I'll say, remember that white lace red Cornish? By far the best English bird. And or I may, if I get that Cornish and I got a white Orpington and I want to put them side by side and really compare them and really nitpick, but those were my 2 top birds in the English class. I said a black Orpington. So anyways,
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does. And guess what? You chose the Orpington. I was robbed. White chickens always win.
Well, I said a black Orpington is the one I picked.
Yeah.
But
we're wrong.
Yeah.
It was a white Orpington. Yeah. So I've lost out.
All right.
But I'm still paying attention.
Sometimes my clerk has to.
I've lost out now, but let's go on and see how this Orpington does. So it's a champion English. That's right. Is that the right words for that?
Yep, perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
Right.
And the champion English means out of all those other breeds, you won the champion of the class, champion English class.
Okay. So now we're competing against. We talked about the 6, right? So we've got a Buckeye and champion American, as you alluded to earlier. We got a Buckeye male. We've got a buff Cochin in the champion Asiatic. You have a white Leghorn and champion Mediterranean. Flashy little, cocky little bird. And then got a spiffy little Hamburg there and Continental and weird looking game bird. Yeah.
Yeah, that champion Continental, that silver spangled Hamburg.
Yeah.
That bird, she is awesome. And you don't find those very good very often, but I raised some of those when I was a teenager. I absolutely love them. So now your white Orpington, and I picked the black one, but is now competing against all the other large fowl classes, and I'm picking a champion large fowl out of these birds.
Look, the Orpington one. So just
I want the Hamburg.
Wow, too late. I can't change the slide. So,
so the Orpington wins, and so then you come to here's the other champions, and full circle: champion bantam, champion waterfowl, champion turkey, and we always take a look at the turkeys. I love turkeys, so I'm like, let's make sure we go look at the turkeys. And I will tell you, I was judging at the Kentucky State Fair a number of years ago. This is after guineas were in the standard. And my judge I was working with, he comes up and he's like, and I don't know guineas very well, but he knows guineas. And he's like, Jim, we have an outstanding guinea that should be considered for champion of the show, for show champion. I'm like, no, not a guinea. So I went and looked at it. We talked about it, and we picked a guinea for grand champion of the show. But which one did you pick?
Well, I actually don't think I did. That's the last slide. So, so you're gonna pick the winner of the show.
Well, based on these amazing pictures that are on the screen, this Seabright is pretty. That's incredible lacing, great type. But I'll tell you that turkey. What's the color say under there?
That's a bourbon red.
You can't tell.
It's a bourbon red.
That is an outstanding bourbon red turkey. So my show champion will be the bourbon red turkey, and the reserve will be the Seabright today. So that turkey breeder, way to go. Yeah. So did you connect all the dots on this, Karen?
Yeah.
Tell me this helped you out.
Yeah, no, I think I did. I know there's awards and ribbons and different things, and there's different types of meets and shows, so we still have a lot to go over, for me to understand better, but like I said, I only knew about dog shows, and these aren't quite the same, but one thing, so in the dog shows, they always pick a best of opposite breed in different levels, but that doesn't seem to be part of.
Yeah, I think you mean best of opposite sex, right?
Oh, yes.
So you got a boy beagle wins, you pick a female. Yep. Yeah, and actually, when I first started showing, we did that. We would if I had the best of breed or the best of variety was a cockbird, we would pick a best opposite sex, and you might find that you'll find it a few places across the U.S. It's not completely gone, but it is unusual.
All right. Yeah. Well, we're going to wrap this up. Look, we're just under an hour like we're supposed to be, but we've got some comments. I'm just going to put them up for you to read so that you can tell that people appreciate you. So I don't know how to pronounce that name, but they appreciate what you're doing. All right, we'll keep going.
I just want you to know how much I appreciate these sessions. I started with chickens 3 years ago, and I'm trying to help reassert the Auburn Java using stock from Illinois. Lyle Beal. I don't know that name. Very cool. Very, very cool. So just this year, almost reached the point where I can set up 4 breeding pens to start my clan breeding program. Very cool.
One more.
One more.
Last one. So they appreciate.
There don't seem to be many fanciers. Open to mentoring. Thus, I really look forward to what I can learn from this series. Fantastic. Excellent. Very cool.
That was a good follow-up. But all right, we'll be. Thank you all for being here, and we will see you next week.
Karen, thanks a bunch. You're awesome. Bye-bye now. Yeah.